So I'm still long-term bullish, and I wouldn't say I'm big on crypto in general. I tend to be pretty skeptical of the majority of the crypto space. For me, it's so far been really Bitcoin and stablecoins that I think are the most interesting, and then there's little pockets elsewhere that are kind of also kind of interesting. But for the most part, it's pretty concentrated. I'm long-term bullish on Bitcoin still. Nothing's really changed with that thesis. The way that I'm interpreting this year is that the ETFs pulled forward a lot of excitement. People started to get really bullish in like February and March of this year. And we've seen kind of a slow draining of these kind of overinflated expectations since then.
Bitcoin Zella stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zella today and enjoy the new edge. Lyn Alden showed to discuss the upcoming rate-cutting cycle. She explains why she's still long-term bullish on Bitcoin and why now could be a good time to invest in emerging markets.
Um, the the big metrics that Bitcoin tends to track, and actually I've commissioned a report from an analyst I like, and I'm advising it that we're kind of quantifying this a little bit more. But Bitcoin tracks global liquidity better than any other major asset class, so better than stocks, better than gold, better than emerging markets, better than bonds. And there's different ways to measure global liquidity. In that report and in general, I define it as global broad money supply, but denominated in dollar equivalents. So you get both a credit expansion or credit contraction component, and then you get that strength of that dollar relative to the other major currencies. And basically, if that goes up or down in a given 12-month period, Bitcoin has the highest likelihood of other assets to do the same direction, which is over 80% in Bitcoin's case. So I put a lot of that focusing on global liquidity when I'm thinking about, say, a 2-year or 12-month Bitcoin price. I don't really try to judge like month by month or quarter by quarter Bitcoin price. For the political component, obviously so most Bitcoin conferences are not that political. This particular one that happened in Nashville is one, it's the biggest one in the world, and it's during American election season. So this one was very political. I guess the interesting thing about it is that most of the headlines were the Republicans there. So obviously Trump was there. There are a number of senators and representatives that were there. But I think what went under the radar is that there were some Democratic politicians there as well, like Ro Khanna, for example. And then he and over a dozen other congressmen wrote a letter to the DNC saying that they need to embrace that industry a little bit better than they have. So right now, if you look at, there's actually a study recently by Troy Cross, a professor, and another professor, I can't remember his name, but they found that they kind of looked at a sample, pretty big sample, it was a well-designed test as far as I could tell. And they wanted to see if there was a difference between Bitcoin holders and the general public on a number of metrics, including politics. And they actually didn't find that much difference.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
the two biggest areas that stood out were Bitcoin holders skewed male and they skewed younger, but they didn't skew left or right, which was actually kind of surprising because when you look at politicians that embrace it, it certainly has skewed right.
Michael Saylor made an interview appearance on NBC's Squawk Box on September 9, pushing his bullish views on Bitcoin. Although Bitcoin's price has risen over the day, Saylor made this initial appearance in the context of decreasing trend lines overall. Host Joe Squawk told Saylor that you have a lot of courage because there's been a lot of major swings in the past. When asked if he had any major close calls, however, Saylor was resolute. Saylor discussed the lowest point in his Bitcoin journey when Silvergate Bank failed. It seemed like a close call for MicroStrategy, but it turned out to be a benefit for us. We made a lot of money. He described the recent market in similar terms, saying that MicroStrategy's growth beat every single company in the S&P index, and all that despite Bitcoin's price wobbles. Since adopting their Bitcoin strategy, Saylor claimed that MicroStrategy has largely transformed into a Bitcoin development company. From this background, he described Bitcoin's greatest strengths, especially its fluid and easily leveraged maneuvers. Saylor ended with a bold prediction of Bitcoin, rising to $13 million in 21 years, in the vein of other strongly pro-Bitcoin statements he's made.
And I'm focusing on basically a couple different areas, some of which I think most investors are overstating and some that I think investors might be understating. So the interesting thing about this cycle is that during the rate hiking cycle, the economy was more resilient to the rate hikes than many people thought. And that was because a lot of the private debt was locked in at low long-term fixed rates. And ironically, a lot of the government debt wasn't. And so basically the raising rates increased the deficit more than it increased private sector interest expense that's locked in. Obviously, if you're entering the home buying market right now, that's a very different story. But when we look at the aggregate private debt out there, investment grade debt, a lot of it was unimpacted by these rate hikes, and only slowly quarter after quarter does some of it get refinanced at these higher rates. And I think we're going to have a similar effect on the downside, which is, cutting by 25 or 50 or even up, after a couple of cuts, even 100 basis points is still above, a lot of the rates that people have locked in. Now, obviously, the long end moves differently than the short end. But overall, until they kind of hit some threshold, I wouldn't expect a very large amount of refinancing, which you normally see during those rate cutting cycles, because people use the opportunity to get out of their higher price mortgages into lower price mortgages. They unlock more consumer spending, and there's just not a lot of that ready to be financed. There were very low mortgage originations over the past couple of years in this higher rate environment, so the opportunity for refinancing is fairly low. The area that I'm more wondering about on the optimistic side is foreign equities. Basically, there's been huge long period of U.S. outperformance, strong dollar environment, strong U.S. equities. Some of that's fundamental, some of that's valuation. A lot of it's capital flows. And one of the few periods where you get a chance for rotation into international markets is during rate cutting cycles.
Total crypto market capitalization has dropped by $10 billion. Total currently stands at $1.99 trillion, below just under the resistance of $2.08 trillion. This level has been tested multiple times over the past month, and TOTL has only successfully broken above it twice. The crypto market often declines over the weekends due to lower trading volumes. Therefore, TOTL may witness further drawdown. It may get pulled back to $1.91 trillion if the market witnesses a significant decline in trading activity over the next 2 days. If this crucial support level is lost, the market could see a steep decline toward $1.69 trillion, a low not seen since August 5, when over $1 billion was wiped out. The Bitcoin market has displayed a relative balance between buying and selling pressures in the past few days. This indicates a period of consolidation, where the asset's price is moving sideways without a strong uptrend or downtrend. This is evident in its flat relative strength index, RSI, assessed on a one-day chart. And do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoin Zella. The most important news will reach your inbox on a daily basis and for free. I do not know why you have not subscribed yet. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more daily updates. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're here to empower you on your financial journey. Until next time, happy investing.